trust me when I say I've been there. I understand the frustration that comes with being hurt, being injured, and not being able to train to your full potential. Being a high-level athlete and competing at a high level while also being a physical therapist gives me a unique perspective and a unique view, and the ability to brainstorm and come up with strategies that will not only get you out of pain when you're injured, but also come back from those injuries stronger than ever. So today I'm gonna be talking about my 5 tips of overcoming any injury. And something that's very common nowadays is the overcomplication of injuries and the focus that a lot of healthcare practitioners have on the actual diagnosis of an injury, and the lack of focus that's put on the treatment and the strategies that you're going to employ on a particular athlete to take them from being injured to back on the platform or back on the field. So the first thing that I'm going to discuss, and while this is overly simplistic, is something that a lot of people avoid doing, and that is stop doing the thing that is hurting you. If you're coming into the gym and your back is hurt, don't squat, for the love of God. Don't put a barbell on your back. Don't deadlift. And I'm not telling you don't deadlift and don't squat forever. I'm just saying the immediate future right now, when you're in the acute phases of an injury, just don't do that. There are other things that you can do that will allow you to continuously get better, that are not gonna keep you derailed from making progress. So misconception that people have is that they always have to be under a bar, or they always have to have a bar on their hands in order to make progress, and that could not be further away from the truth. There are ways, there are exercises and things that you can implement that don't involve directly a barbell that can help you to keep making progress. Remember, just don't do what's hurt. Don't keep insulting your body. Don't keep exposing your body to that particular stressor that's causing you pain. Secondly, understand that tissue adaptation takes time. And in order to further explain that concept, you need to understand that injuries as a whole occur when the load that you're placing your body under exceeds the tolerance or capacity of your tissue. And that's a very basic concept. That is how every single injury occurs. When you have an injury and you're trying to get back into the swing of things, understand that injuries don't heal from one day to the other. Just as you're not gonna get stronger in a week, some injuries might take way longer than a week to heal. So when you're coming back, there's this thing called the margin of safety. And the margin of safety is basically the block that, or the line, the margin that you have in which you can train, where you're improving the tolerance and the capacity of your tissues, and you're staying away from getting injured. It depends on the injury. For some people, that margin of safety might be really, really small, and in some other injuries, for some other people, that margin of safety might give you a little bit more leeway. Just understand that whatever you're trying to get past, it requires time, and it requires progressive loading of tissues so that you can improve and increase the resiliency of the tissue that's hurt and make it stronger so that it's ready for you to get back on your feet, back on the platform. Next, you want to turn off the pain alarm. And this is a pain science concept that involves 2 concepts. One is habituation and one is sensitization, and I'm gonna talk about that now. It's not enough for me to tell you, if you got hurt during deadlifts, don't deadlift or don't bend forward, ever. Because that's just not gonna cut it, because your daily life involves bending forward. Your daily life will involve squatting down if you have a knee injury. Your daily life will involve bringing your arm up if you have a shoulder injury. So how can you turn off that pain alarm so that you can do these movements without having the feeling of pain? And that is via exposing yourself gradually to movements that resemble that movement that hurts you while not doing it directly. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have a hip injury and it hurts when you squat, when you bring the knee up to 90 degrees when you're squatting. So a different way, or a movement that you can expose yourself to that won't be perceived as threatening, would be laying down on your back, supine, and bringing your hips to 90 degrees and creating a nice isometric contraction, for example. Or standing up, having a kettlebell in the front, bringing your hip up and doing some standing marches. Or for example, let's say that you're flexion intolerant because you just had a low back strain. Instead of trying to keep doing flexion the way that your body perceives as threatening and that your body perceives as painful, another thing that you can do are cat camels, where you expose your spine to that same flexion and extension in a way that's not perceived as threatening. The important thing about all of this is to expose yourself to what your current threshold is. So as a rule of thumb, the way I like to think about it is to have an imaginary pain scale that it goes from 0 to 10, 10 being the most painful thing you've ever experienced, and 0 being no pain at all. And whenever you're doing these movements, you don't want to exceed a 3 out of 10. So some sort of discomfort, minimal discomfort while you're doing these movements is okay. It's normal. Don't fear pain. Don't be afraid of feeling some sort of pain, because you kind of like have to expose yourself to that. But you also don't want to exceed the tolerance of your tissue, so you want to stay below that 3. So don't have that no pain, no gain mentality. I hate that. You should have a no pain, more gain mentality, where not feeling pain should be the goal. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to put yourself through pain in order to get better. Where should you start? What are the initial exercises that you should be doing when you're coming back from an injury? Isometrics is a great way. It's a great place to start. So isometrics, I like to refer to them as the painkillers. There's a big body of evidence that suggests that isometric exercises have an analgesic effect on the body. That is that it is a temporary effect while you do it. It provides you with immediate relief. The way you want to think about isometrics is not something that you do every other day when you're injured. It's more something that you do every day, multiple times per day to, like I said, 1, expose yourself to load to improve the capacity of your tissue, and 2, to turn down the pain alarm, turn down the pain signal. So to give you an example of an isometric exercise that would apply for your lower back, say you have a lower back injury, doing things like bird dogs and dead bugs, for example, they might not work the way that you think they're working. A lot of people preach that those exercises work by improving the stability of your lower back, but there's actually no evidence to suggest that an unstable segment actually leads to pain. So how are these exercises actually so beneficial and so helpful? And this is one possible explanation. Isometric exercises improve blood flow to working muscles and have an analgesic effect in the body and improve the capacity of the tissues. So start there. And I'll give you another example. If you have a knee patellar tendonitis, for example, that's another really, really common injury. Where do you start? Isometrics for that type of injury would be an isometric squat, or you can even do a wall squat with a goblet there. So how I would program it is you would do 3 to 4 sets of 30 to 40 seconds hold multiple times per day. And finally, movement impairment correction. And this is slightly more complicated because I believe that it requires a trained eye from some sort of movement specialist, either a physical therapist, a chiropractor, or a personal trainer, someone to watch you and try to identify what the biomechanical fault or cause of your injury is and how it can better be avoided in the future. For example, let's say that someone has excessive lower back rounding in a deadlift and keeps injuring their lower back. So it is important to understand what the biomechanical cause of that particular injury is. Let's talk about the low back and the deadlift. When someone's overly rounding their back in a deadlift, it's not necessarily because the lower back is weak, so that's a misconception. The lower back is strong in proportion to the glutes, and that's why your body is overly using those muscles and straining those muscles to such an extent that it gets you injured. How do you fix that? Well, first of all, you need to get your glutes and your hamstrings stronger. Possibly you need to improve the flexibility and the active range of your hamstrings for them to be able to activate in that position. And then you need to relearn your technique to stop relying on your lower back muscles to deadlift. So that's what I mean. This isn't as clear cut as the rest of the points, and it does require a trained eye, but sometimes you do need to go back to basics and reconsider what you've been doing and the quality of your movement so that you can further prevent the same injury from occurring in the future. So again, these are my 5 tips on overcoming any injury. Stop doing what hurts, Tissue adaptation takes time. Turn off that pain alarm through habituation and sensitization exercises. Do more isometrics. The isometrics are the painkiller. And make sure that you take a look at your movement and that you correct the movements that are leading to your injury. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time.